And hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Accommodation Show. This week, I'm joined by the wonderful Alex Husner. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me back. I think this is the second time that I've gotten to come on, so very excited to be here, a world away from where you are, but always a pleasure to see you, Bart.
I'm surprised that it's only the second time, to be honest. I think we've talked, I've been on yours, you've been on mine. It's good to have that
Yep.
exchange, but I am surprised that it hasn't been more often because your journey has been quite interesting. There's lots of things that you're doing all the time. In your connection to the industry, there's just so much that people can learn from kind of your journey and what you're doing. Because, I mean, we were just talking beforehand and you were talking about conferences. Now, right now, I'm in the middle of doing a bunch of podcasts about conferences that are coming up so that people know about them, what they're all about, who's organizing them, and that sort of thing. But tell
hmm
us, like, you're going for it, right? Is it starting now or is it starting in October? Where are you going? What are you doing?
Oh, well, I mean, it starts technically right now for me next week, depending on when this airs. But I'm in the Myrtle Beach, South Carolina market, and next week heading to Orlando, Florida for Favor, which is the Florida Alliance of Vacation Rentals conference. And I went to that the first time in 2021, I believe it was. And it's a smaller crowd, but it's a good crowd. There's typically around 300 people that attend. And the nice thing about these regional events is it's a lot of people that they don't necessarily go to the VRMA or
Mm,
international or some of the other international
yeah.
conferences, but they want to be around kind of more of their peers that are in their local area to talk about things that are relevant to them. So super excited about that. And then VRMA and then Scale Italia, totally, crazy for us.
Yeah.
New one to add.
Yeah.
And then Darm. So an interesting lineup with some, Italian sauce on top.
What's the number one thing you're looking forward to in Italy?
Honestly, everything. I mean, I've never been before. I've never been overseas, to that side of the world. To be honest, I've traveled extensively, the U.S. and Mexico and the Caribbean, but I've never been over anywhere near there. So I'm really excited just to understand, the culture, not only just the culture locally, but and enjoy that, but to also see the difference between the vacation rental managers there and the things that
Sure.
they are facing, the things that are interesting to them. We just had the Scale Italia folks on our show about a month ago to kind of talk about how the show, how it goes, like what are the things people are interested in. It was eye opening because I think there's some fundamental things that are going to be similar, but I
Mhm.
think there's going to be a lot of nuances that will be different. And for the thing I'm most excited about is to walk away with a better understanding internationally of
Mhm.
vacation rentals that I've been in forever, but mostly just, in the United States.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. So, I mean, that's why I come over to the States, Canada, come over
Yeah.
to that side of the world to really learn and to find sort of the what I'd call the best bits to then bring them back to the APAC region, so Australia, New Zealand, and the other countries in the future, and really, you know, my biggest takeaways was scale. That in the US things are just so much bigger. Over here, you'll talk to somebody if they've got 300 properties, they're a massive property manager. In
hmm
the States, 300 is kind of a small company, right?
Yeah.
And then it
Yeah.
grows to 1,000. The number of tech suppliers out there as well and what they're doing. And what was interesting about that was just seeing that at VRMA, there might have been 50 to 100 exhibitors in Vegas a few years ago. And I was actually shocked that I thought that the technology would be far more advanced, actually. I thought it would be sort of up here. And I was like, oh my God,
Interesting.
there's so much opportunity. So that was kind of nice to see as well, even though I think the technology had so much room for growth and improvement, which is done over the past few years. You've just seen a big change. And that's what we're going to be talking about today is actually technology and growth. So this is
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
segue in. Um, but you're absolutely right. So going to Italy, you're gonna find things that will either put into perspective what you're doing right in your own market, or
Yeah.
find opportunities to grow and to expand and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, unless you travel the world, you don't know what's out there, right? And you
Mhm.
really you have to meet people, you have to see different ways of doing things. And there's so many different ways of doing vacation rentals, and there's so many ways just in the United States. I can't even imagine all the different ways there are overseas. And we've
Mm,
learned a lot from the guests, including yourself, that have come on our show, talking about, like, a Graham Donahue, that they manage, thousands of rent. I mean, I don't even know, 100,000. They have so many properties and have built all of their own tech. And I feel like that's something that's very common overseas, is that
mm,
they did build their own tech. But there's commonalities too, that you look at the US companies that started back in those days too, of somewhere between 35, 45 years ago, which there's plenty of them on both sides of the world, that a lot of them, including when I was at Condo World, decided to build our own tech. And
mm.
some of that homegrown tech is actually better than a lot of what is out there, or was
Sure.
to a certain point. And I think the way technology has evolved is, get the things that you like, right about it. But if you're going to be a company that's going to build your own and have your own ecosystem, you also have to have that open API that you can pull in things that just don't financially make sense to build. But it's interesting. It's going to be an interesting trip.
It,
Very excited.
it's just interesting actually. This because there's quite a few companies that developed their own in-house tech, and then they took that tech and then sold it to the market, and the
Yeah.
market picked it up, and then that became their new business. Atlassian is an Australian company that's a multi-billion-dollar company, and that's all about managing projects and for developers. Um, and they did incredibly well out of it. And it was the same story. They just built it for themselves to manage their development
Hmm.
pipeline. And it's interesting to talk to people. Like I know that Dennis from Cassiola has been
Hmm.
doing technology, and that made Comfy over here, who are the biggest, or if not one of the biggest property management companies over here. They build their own technology as well. Now a lot of it's integrated with other platforms, but they are fixing problems that those platforms don't cater to. So it'll be interesting to see how which companies actually choose to sort of break out of their own structure to build tech. And
Yeah.
I'm really I want a full report when you come back from Italy as
Well,
to your top findings.
yeah, for
um,
sure. And if I can just pause for 1 second, because I think that point you just made is really interesting, and something that now has kind of come full circle for me in my career journey of, the reason why companies end up having to build their own tech is two things. Either one, I think back in the day, they saw, I can either buy this expensive software, or I have somebody that is a developer, we can build it ourselves. Or it's people like Dennis and Cassiola, that they are very, technology development minded, and really understand the business, that build things kind of on top of what they have as an existing structure.
mm,
And it's very interesting to me to see how this has evolved, because you have the traditional vacation rental companies that they might have built something that was really good and worked so well for them, but to take something like that to market is a completely different
sure.
business model, and it needs to be approached that way. And that was always my position with Condo World, that we had an amazing software, but did it make sense for the business to be a technology company? And we hear that thrown around all the time, of is Vacasa a technology? Which company is a technology company? And I always said that we were a hybrid, that we had our technology and it fueled the bread and butter business, but that
Mm,
also fueled our ability to drive additional revenue streams, whether from the software or our OTA that we built, or other different things. But then you also have, this is where the full circle comes. A client that I'm working with now is Boom, which just announced this week as the world's first AI PMS, and emerged from that exact same mentality that you just mentioned. Of they were managing a large portfolio, over 250 homes in South Florida, and on one platform, but were not able to get the information that they needed to truly understand, the true P&L, the true ROI of these
mm,
investment properties, and how they showed that to investors, and how they were able to really streamline things. And so they started building things on top of what they had. And then it got so good that they realized, we're essentially 90% there to a PMS. And so now that's changed to the focus is bringing that to the forefront, and building out that additional 10%, which they're pretty close on. But
yeah.
I think that the tech that is built by people that are using it, that's kind of the moral of the story, is the most valuable. And that relates to my early days with the homegrown company, and then now this company, that they're making a decided decision to split up the vacation rental company and the tech company as separate. But the difference is people that really know the industry and that know the software. And I think that's where a lot has fallen short. There's a ton of money going around, but a lot of the big names in the industry they've never been a property manager, and they've never been guided by what is actually needed, in a meaningful way. So it's interesting. It's super interesting to me.
Yeah, it really is, and I think that having been part of tech for many years and seeing different strategies that you can roll out, I think that for a great tech company in this space, they really have to be hospitality driven and focused and have a love for that
100%.
hospitality, which then translates into we can develop some great products that meet those needs.
Yeah.
The lacking part quite often is the technical knowledge, right? Is how do we actually
Yeah.
make this work? So you need those kind of two brains to come together, and then you get like this really amazing synergy and these great products that actually can be developed. Now,
Yeah.
you talked about Boom AI. Had a look at the
Mhm.
website; looks great. I don't want to talk about that today necessarily because we are constrained on time, and I really want to kind of focus and hone in on a Facebook post that you posted up. You said, "Hey guys, I'm involved with this awesome new product. Um, you guys should all know about it." So I'm not going to do the introduction. I'm going to let you do the introduction. Tell us a little bit more about it, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. Yeah, and that's actually a really great tee up, because everything that you just explained about, people that understand hospitality and then finding people that can develop something, that's the crux of something that's going to be really valuable. And that's essentially what this company is. So about 8 months or so ago, I was approached with an opportunity to come in as a founder for Happy Guest, which is a guest journey platform that is based on psychology, and the messaging, the design, the UX, the timing of the messaging, the content of the messaging, are all very critical parts to why this is something that is so different than. It's not an app. One, it's a web based platform, but it is essentially helping property managers from any size, whether you have one property or you have 400, and we have companies and hosts all in that same size range that are using Happy Guest, to be able to communicate with guests at the right time and with the right information, and then to make sure that you're getting guests to do the things that you need them to do. So, right off the bat, Airbnb reservations, I've seen in a lot of companies that they will respond once a reservation is booked, which now that, of course, that's allowed. You can ask for the email address,
Yeah,
but they ask for the email address. Sometimes they'll put it in the PMS, sometimes they don't. Um, if they do put it in the PMS, it's more for the fact that they say, we're going to send you a rental agreement to sign. So a guest inquires on Airbnb, and now you're asking them for their email to take them off the platform to send them a rental agreement, which like this is confusing for a guest. Like, guests
yeah,
want to be communicated with in the manner and the platform of which they
sure.
booked. And this is coming from somebody who, believe me, I am all about direct bookings. Ran a 95% direct booking company with 500 units. Like, if you had asked me this a few years ago, I probably would have said, no, 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 get them off there. But in learning really how guest behavior works, is you want to keep people where they're most comfortable, and you convert them when it makes sense to move them over to your email list. Of course, you want to get the email. That's the
Sure.
first part. But that's kind of the first part of this journey. And it's done in a very fun and kind of like a gamified way, that as they're going through the steps, they give their email. They have to approve that they've seen house rules, which are kind of more just like call outs. So, not saying, that this isn't the fine detail, but like the main things that you could continuously have problems with. So, noise ordinances, or age to rent. In case you want to verify again, you have to be 25 to rent here, or, trash, or anything that's like kind of a main issue that you have with guests. These are the top things that they have to see. Then they sign a rental agreement, and then they're now brought into a different journey of upsells for either early check-in, or late checkout, or adding additional nights, local attractions, and things of that nature. But it's done all in a very seamless way that it's fun for the guests. The visually, it's extremely enticing, and it doesn't look daunting. I hate when you get that email from American or Delta of like, it's time to check in. It's like, oh God, here we go. Like
Yeah,
there's a lot of things you have to do. And essentially what Happy Guest is it's taking airline check-in to vacation rentals that you have to do the first couple steps in order to get into the home. So you're
yeah,
getting 100% of rental agreements, you're getting 100% of emails. And then at that point, now you really truly do own that guest that you can direct book market to them however
yeah.
you want to in the future.
Yeah, yeah. Amazing. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to take it from the top a little bit. It sounds like an incredibly ambitious product. I love the fact that it's designed sort of the guest first, because I think a lot of these solutions is trying to fix a problem, right? Okay, I need to get the customer's details. I need them to get into the house. I need them to do this. I need them to do that.
Yeah,
But that doesn't take into account what the guest needs, right? What does the guest need? They need to feel great. They need to feel like they've had a positive experience. I was
100%.
actually talking to one of my clients yesterday um, about uh, about a big franchise over here in Australia that does incredibly well because they've got an incredible communication change after you've made a reservation. So you book a clean, you book them to mow your lawn, and then after that, everything that happens makes you as a consumer feel a lot of trust towards the brand,
Yeah,
a lot of trust that it's going to go well, a lot of trust that if anything does go badly, they've already told you what you
yeah.
should do if something's not quite right, and they're going to make
Hmm.
it right. So all of those things give you, especially when it's so disconnected, when a person makes a booking on an OTA, they don't really know the person or
Who it is. Yeah,
the company that they're working with. So then
yeah,
that communication chain, especially when you're trying to automate it and you don't have someone at the front desk, it's critical to actually get right and to spend a lot of time actually thinking about it,
mhm,
because it can, one, get you far more bookings in the future because people have a much better experience, but it
yeah,
can also alleviate a lot of headache and cost
yeah.
when things are going wrong with the guests. Is that kind of where you guys are thinking of going with this kind of product?
Yes, yeah. And I mean, the one thing is for the companies that we've implemented this with and the individual hosts is that it's cut down on their staff or VA or whatever it may be, their
Mm,
time to be having to respond to questions like 90%. I mean, like it's unbelievable. Like they literally when somebody launches, they're like, nobody's asking questions. Like we're worried that things aren't working. We're like, that's the whole magic of it is that when you deliver the right information at the right time in a way that's easily consumable and understanding like how you move through that process, it eliminates the questions. But what happens right now is, one of my clients for my fractional CMO business that is on Streamline, we implemented it for them. They've got about 70 very large luxury homes in Hilton Head. And when a guest was booking a reservation previously, they would get a first email of a receipt of the booking and then a email to sign their rental agreement online. um, then nothing like there that was it, that's
mm,
all that they got. And there's a lot of companies that have not put a whole lot of thought into like those automations. They were a newer company when I first started working with them, that they could have done more on it for sure. But even so, a lot of companies are they don't really have that guidance on how to build a guest
mm,
journey. And that's, I think back to my days at Condo World, and I've probably talked about this on previous episodes with you, that without even thinking about it, 4 or 5 years ago as a guest journey, we knew that's what it was. But now that's kind of a term people say all the time. What we were building trust. We were getting them the information they needed at the right time. And that led to us having 95% direct bookings, other things too. But it's like when they know your name and they know who you are and they know what to expect, like, and they trust you, like that's what leads to being able to build that brand that everybody wants to build.
mm,
But in this case, it's like we want these companies to be able to communicate with their guests in a way that the guests remember them, they remember the experience, they're able to go back and rebook direct at that property if they want to, or maybe other properties of that the company manages. But ultimately, we want the hosts to be happy hosts. We want them to not have to deal with so much of this back and forth that right now in a lot of PMSs, the information that could be included on a listing as far as their terms and conditions or their house rules it can be entered into multiple different places in a lot of these PMSs, depending on which
Hmm.
one you have. And it's completely contradictory. So a lot of the questions that come up could be alleviated. And part of this process, when I say the psychology, is like when we get all the information from a new client, we're doing all the fact checking of like, nope, this doesn't match up with this. Like you have to, it's a little bit of like, we have to go through this with you and let's correct these things. And then now you have
Sure.
one source of truth that just makes it your whole life easier for operations and guest services.
Yeah. And so, thinking about that guest journey and that guest experience, that was something I was going to ask you. Look, a lot of property management software has got a lot of have tools already in place to help to streamline the process. So they have, you can send SMSs, you can send emails, you can trigger them at different points. A lot of PMSs do have that kind of technology. Now, there's one thing to have the tools. There's a second thing to actually use those tools, right? So you
Hmm.
have to use them, put them together, figure out that guest journey. And to be honest with you, you could probably get a consultant to come in, spend a few $1,000s, and they could help you streamline your guest journey. Now, the one thing that isn't considered is the guest journey is never finite, right? So you never get the answer as to what the best way is for someone to get through that experience and that journey off of one go. You need a lot of user interactions, a lot of thoughts to make sure that that process is working well from start to finish, and for people to have a good experience. There are whole teams at all the biggest companies out there that sit there all day long looking at user experience, looking at the guest journey or user journey to make
Hmm.
sure that the user is having a great experience. And I'm going to take a bit of a leap here that that's where you guys plug that gap, where
Yeah.
happy guests will come in and use all the experience that you have as a team, as a company, plus all the data you have to then streamline that experience so that hosts that don't necessarily have the time, money, or expertise to spend the time in that world, they don't have to do it themselves.
100%. You and I only vaguely talked before we started this, and I think you get where we're going with it. And I mean, the one thing that I will add is I think that people are completely overcomplicating what the guest journey actually means. Like, the analysis can be extremely quick. We've seen when we've integrated this with companies with 70 units, companies with 50 units, individual hosts with 5 units, that you immediately see the difference in the number of questions that are coming in and then the review scores that come from that. So it's you can pretty quickly tell when you've implemented something that it's working. And for us, we're integrating this extensive knowledge that we have of the industry in it, and maybe that's why it is working so well. But I will say too, one of the other co-founders, his name is Kanan Whited, and he was a big part of why I came into this project. That he has an absolutely incredible background in building technology for short-term rentals, but not only short-term rentals, but has worked with incredible brands. I mean, Virgin, what's the cruise line that was for adults that they had the whole
Was it
like
Atlantic?
ship
Was it?
done? Was that?
Was it Virgin Atlantic? Was it?
Yes, yes, yeah. Like he was responsible for a big part of the design of that cruise line. Was creative director for Whole Foods and in charge of
Mm.
trying to take Whole Foods. How did they create these unique experiences in each location at scale? And was able to do that for them. Has worked with Airbnb when they were building their Airbnb like hotels or apartment properties where they wanted to manage the entire thing, did all the branding for that and the messaging. So he's got an incredible background and just super, super interesting, fascinating person that his, how he's looked at this and he's the design behind it is really utilizing what he's learned in terms of, the human psychology, behavior, and how literally when you get this app and it says happy guest, you would probably think like, all right, I should probably be happy, right? I mean, it's not crazy. But then as we go through the process, it's like you realize like all these great reviews that are now coming on properties that before they were not, they were threes and fours because they were having to ask so many different questions. And it's worked, and it's simple, but it's it's like Apple, right? I mean, like sometimes you have to just think of you have to take something really complex and you have to make it simple. And
Yeah.
having the right design and the right understanding behind that is where something really comes to life. And I think that's the difference between what we've done versus, what some of the other platforms are out there that are trying to be everything to everybody. And ours is, kind of a no-brainer that makes sense, that it integrates seamlessly. There's no API integration. We use iCal links to connect to the property management system. Um, so it eliminates a lot of the problems I've had in the past of trying to figure out how we can do different software things in companies I've worked for. That's gone. It's a lot more simple on every way.
Right. We should get it integrated with iBooked Online in that case. If there's no
I think we
shortcut
should. Yeah.
iCal, it's simple to chuck data around for us. So we should
Yeah.
do that. We should have a look at it. Now, quick fire questions, because I'm aware that our time is quickly running out. So I'm going to fire away with some thoughts and some ideas, and guide me a little bit, but also let's try to get through as many as we can. The
Okay.
We talk about the guest being happy and taking them on the journey. Quite often, there's been a big push to the industry to talk about guest guides and that sort of thing. Where are you guys in that part of the funnel?
Yep, absolutely. So we have a section, and Happy Guest can be edited for whatever you want to show or don't want to show. So before I get to the guest guide part, if you want to have a welcome video, which is something that we definitely recommend, of putting a face to a property really makes sense. And it kind of, again, the psychology of helping people understand, like, this is someone's home. And it's okay if you're the manager that's representing those homes, but saying, hi, I'm Bart. I'm so excited that you're staying at this property that I manage. I know you're going to have an amazing stay. Like, it just puts a face to a name that has just been blank, which is Airbnb as a brand. It makes a
Mm-hmm.
big difference. Beyond that, with the videos and things that we can do, if there are things in the home that need further explanation, like a hot tub or Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
or even just turning the TV on. Everybody knows that's always a big thing. The air conditioning, whatever it is, you can easily film videos and upload them there. And then finally, the guest guides. So the way that we do it, you can either upload things that you want to specifically do. What the way that we have it for most of them is that it's a Google map, which is way easier for people to understand and be able to actually see real reviews and updated content, that you can choose which properties, or not properties, but which restaurants or attractions are included in it. And that shows as your recommendations for the area.
Yeah,
I
great.
know I stayed at a vacation rental a few months ago, and that was how it was set up. And I was like, this is so much easier than just like them listing some restaurants. Like, I can see how far it is for me, the reviews, the menu, everything. But can customize all of that, and also the upsells on, attractions and, things that they can add into the revenue streams.
Yes, you're getting onto the next question, which is great.
Oh,
So,
we're on the same
so
page.
yeah, absolutely. The platform does SMS and email as well to sort of get the customers engaged.
So the way that it works right now is, at some point, I think it would be more agnostic, but the way that we've built it at this point, because of how it makes sense for that initial part of guest journey, is that you set up these automations within your system. So whether if you're using Streamline or Track or just Airbnb Messenger, that you set these automations up, and you're using a custom tag for the link, for that property, which that's easy to set up. And then that updates with every guest that comes in, and it will message them where they have messaged you. So if an Airbnb guest
Hmm.
the message is gonna go back to them. That's how I have it set up for my clients, at least. The Airbnb message goes back to them. If it's a guest that has booked on your website or on Verbo, the email, it goes as an email, a traditional email, but triggered from your PMS.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of different ways you can do it. I mean, you can have it set up if you use a separate mail client, like a Switchback or
Hmm.
Mailchimp or whatever you use. There's different ways that you can set that up, based on your individual needs, because
Sure.
we want this to be flexible.
Fantastic. Damage stuff. Have you guys got any of that integration or any thoughts around that part? Because you're talking about getting agreements signed. Are you guys doing anything there just yet?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So damage waiver that's definitely one of the parts of the upsells that we do, which that is, becomes a revenue source for the host. And in some cases, I mean, you've got property managers that if they're using an outside insurance company for the like more high level, like up to $100,000 insurance policies on a home, they could have gone from at one point they could have been self-funding that, or maybe they didn't start that way but they just went right into using this other company, but they're missing a lot of revenue by doing that for something that's not going to be probably ever used. You want to have it, of course, because if something unforeseen happens, you need to have it. But how do you get that revenue back? And so part of our system is being able to help the host be able to recuperate some of that damage waiver cost as well.
Beautiful. And then in terms of payments for upsells, where does that happen? Does that happen on your platform, or do they put in their Stripe? How does that get tackled?
Yep. So we use Stripe and we just connect it to I believe their Stripe account, and so it's
Yeah.
pretty seamless. This was we launched in May, and I would say July and August were the first months that we had like now some really good, decent stream of bookings coming in, checking in, and literally the clients that I have are getting checks for a few $1,000s a month off of this. So
Yeah.
it's completely cost neutral. It's free to host. Our model is very conducive to making this something that we don't want people to have to be another line item of $3 a
Mm.
month or $5 a month.
Or
We're
20 or
we're
50.
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice part.
Good. All right. So look, what I'm getting the feeling of is the proof is in the pudding. Go check it out. Have a look at this new tool, this new software. Uh, if anything, to learn and see how things are progressing and how things are changing out there. And I think that the real testament to this is who's involved in the project. And I know that there's a few names that are yet to come that might be out by the time this episode airs. We will see. But I think that the right minds behind the project is really a key part of it, because they're thinking not just about the commercial success of the company, but how do we actually make that guest experience better. So, Alex, what are the links? What are we sharing with people?
Yeah, no, thank you. And again, thank you again for just having me on here and appreciate your interest in it. But people can go to happyguestofficial.com and sign up and we'll take you through the full demo of it. I will say, we've got a little bit over 1,000 properties on it, and just since May, so a fairly short amount of time, we've done 15,000 successful reservations
Mm,
over this past summer. So we're new, but we're quickly gaining steam, and we've got all the right people and the right things in place to be able to scale this and help more hosts, because at the end of the day we want to help a host with one property be able to still offer that same level of professionalism as one of my clients that might have 300 properties. And that's where the industry, we believe, really comes together in a more meaningful way and a more holistic way of not separating Airbnb versus us, but it's, we're all in this together collectively.
beautiful. You'll have to book me in for a demo, because I want to have a little peek around and
Oh, absolutely.
potentially do some integrations with our clients as well. I think that'll be a cool little feature to have, because we don't actually have that part of it now. So it could work very well. Folks, if you're tuned into the podcast on YouTube, 99% of you are not subscribed. So what I want you to do is take your mouse, click on the subscribe button, and you are done for the day. What that means is you get notifications for when our next episodes come out. If you're listening on iTunes, if you're listening on Spotify, leave us a review. It makes a huge difference to the work that we do. It enables me and my team to put together these episodes and to find amazing guests like Alex and put them on the show. Alex, you're awesome. Really grateful to have you on the show, to hear your thoughts, and looking forward to seeing you soon. And I'm sure we'll speak again very, very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Take care. Have a good day.
Bye.